Peter, thanks very much indeed for talking to us. So you recovered more than 87 million rand in favour of consumers, just over 9,500 complaints, and that's 87 million rand gone out to consumers that wouldn't have done that had you not been there. Does that tell us something about the industry then?
Well, I suppose it does, in that there are always matters that may be contentious and in which insurers would take decisions that may not necessarily be supported by evidence, and therefore our office plays its role in just making sure that we counterbalance the powers that the insurance companies have as opposed to the insured consumers.
The numbers look pretty similar compared to the year before. I mean, it was around 87 million rand the year before. Again, just the behavioral changes between what people are complaining about, is that different or not?
The only main differences are in that we have picked up that some of the complaints that used to be quite prominent seem to have taken a bit of a dip. For example, I think DUI, driving under the influence of alcohol, we've seen a little bit of a dip on that. And I think where we have seen that, it might have something to do with our campaigns in educating consumers about their rights and obligations, because there seemed to be a lot of misunderstandings on the part of consumers in terms of what it is that they can do and not do, what they should do and not do in line with their insurance policy obligations.
So let's talk about seemingly the winners here, right? Outsurance doing well, only 1.3 complaints per 1,000 claims, as I understand it, and only 6% of the disputes did the ombuds, which is you rule in the client's favour. I don't want to get too much into the numbers, but I want to ask you, what do some of these insurance homes or houses do better than others, and what separates them if these numbers look like this?
Look, I think the one major separator tends to be the attitude more than anything else. You would find some insurers who seem to have the understanding that we have rated the risk, we have received premiums from the consumer, and if there's a valid claim, we should pay that claim. And that is the general attitude throughout how they do their business. And then you also find some other insurer who would look at, let's say, the cost of the claim and feel the higher the cost, maybe we should look at loopholes or ways of avoiding to pay. And those that tend to have the right mindsets tend to do better than those that don't.
The other interesting stat coming out of this report is the fact that motor vehicle insurance representing 48% of the total claims, but then only 18% of those motor vehicle claims were resolved in favour of the client. I mean, the question is, are the clients getting it wrong here?
I think that is the sense that one gets, and that is why earlier on I mentioned the driving under the influence dip in terms of the number of complaints. What one tends to find is a lot of consumers don't quite understand the products that they bought, and they would then complain even where there may not necessarily be a complaint. For example, you find somebody coming and saying, this insurer wanted to know where I was before the accident, and I think that is invasion of privacy. What they don't realize is that when they took up the policy, they actually consented to the insurer going and obtaining information around things like that, because it pertains to the risk that the insurer is carrying. So for the insurer to be able to say this is a valid claim, it needs to go and do the proper validations, which include verifying, for example, that I'm not coming from a party just before the accident and I got drunk and that is where the accident happened. So those investigations need to happen in the process of validation. But then somebody doesn't seem to even be aware that the insurer is going to do that it is entitled to do that, and. So those are some of the reasons why you'd find what seems to be some sort of imbalance, where you would expect that because motor is the bigger book of short-term insurance, therefore that's where you would find that there should be greater benefits that the office obtains for the insured consumer. But then the other thing that I think I should mention is that we must also remember motor is the one area where a lot of people would, I think the risk is greater, and then you also have a lot of people that have insurance, not necessarily because they chose to, but because they are financing their cars, and that is why you would have that market looking bigger than the rest of the others.
I've also seen that the issue of buyer beware is still very, very strong. I mean, most of the claims in this report rejected on the basis of exclusion of warranty or policy in terms and conditions. Again, there's not much that can be done in the consumer favor there. You've been told it's on a warranty. If it expires, that's the case.
Yeah, look, like I said earlier on, I think the biggest thing that one needs to send out there is that people need to take the time to familiarize themselves with the products that they buy. A lot of us are a bit lazy. I'm happy to know that I'm paying 300 Rand per month, but I don't know what I'm getting in turn for that and what it is that I'm expected to do in order to ensure that I enjoy the benefits that I'm supposedly buying in terms of that product that I'm buying. So if one has a better understanding, one would also be in a position to decide whether that product is even suitable for oneself, because there are instances where one may be buying a product that's not suitable for any of the things that are happening in their own lives, but they're buying it because a friend said it works for them, or whatever the case may be.
Peter, thanks very much indeed for those insights. That was Peter Nkuna of the Short-Term Insurance Ombud joining us there.